Dr. Fred Ogola is a director at the Institute of Strategy and Competitiveness at Strathmore University Business School. Dr. Ogola, karibu.
Asante sana.
It's good to have you on the show. Welcome to the hot seat of Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
How is Strathmore?
Strathmore is doing very well.
Yeah.
Of course, Strathmore is that one small university in terms of, let's say, land coverage, but has the highest big impact if you compare to education. Because if you compare it with JKWAT, you compare it with University of Nairobi, we don't have as much assets as they do, but our return on assets is very high, which means we are doing very well.
Okay. Strathmore has gotten to that point where people who have been to Strathmore, what Strathmore?
Yes.
It's like, I went to Alliance.
My friend, there are institutions that when people go, in fact, the conversations begin with them going to those institutions and you never hear the end of it. You're talking of Alliance.
Yeah.
There are people who went to a school called Maseno. Yeah. You never hear the end of it.
How about St. Mary's Yala?
You never hear the end of it. And what
Actually,
about Mango?
I'm alumni of St. Mary's Yala.
You see?
Oh, there you go.
This conversation can end now, actually.
And your current CS for Education, Magoha, was also in St. Mary's Yala.
There we go. That's before we bring in Mango.
But
Yes.
And they're not telling about the things they have done.
Mango people don't brag.
Oh, don't they just?
No.
I don't think there is any institution which do not have bragging rights in this country. Even the smallest primary school you went to, and because you came from there, it still has some bragging rights.
Yes, that's true.
It does.
That's true.
It does.
Dr. You teach strategy
Yes.
at Strathmore.
Yes.
What is strategy? I think it's very important before we even go into the reason why you are here today to just understand that the meaning of that term, strategy.
This is a very important question because every time I teach strategy, there's always a misconception and misunderstanding between what is a vision, what's a mission, what's a goal, what's an objective, what's a strategy, what's a tactic. So, by the way, I've trained more than 1 million executives at Strathmore, maybe including the MD of Standard Media Group was my student at some point. And this discussion becomes really important when it comes to distinguishing. For example, when you ask somebody, what is your strategy? They give you their vision. That's not a strategy. But to make it easier, strategy answers the question how. That's it. So, for example, you can say Spice FM wants to grow their viewership. That is like an aspiration, could be a vision, could be an objective. But the question is how. So I want to go to Mombasa. How? I want to win an election. How? I want to grow my revenue. How? I want to succeed in life. How? So if we don't waste a lot of time of what books say, strategy answers the question how.
It's the simple
So any
how.
strategic document or strategic plan that cannot answer the question how, it is as useless as it cannot answer that question.
So then, before you get to strategy, you must start with the why and what.
Yes.
Okay, so what are those called? Vision, mission.
For example, the vision is the what. The why is the mission, the purpose. So once you know the why, which is your purpose for existence, which normally rarely change really. Like when this world to be happy. I don't think that will change. Whether you go to Mombasa, whether you go to Limuru, whether you go to USA, you need to be happy. So that is a mission. It doesn't change. Fundamental option in life is to be happy. Now, what is, you'll be happy doing what? I'm happy being a professor because see, professors, the advantage we have is that when you teach in class, you look at the eyes of your student and you can see they have got it. And you go home happy that day. I've passed the point. But you see, for you, maybe even for you as a journalist, sometimes you can pass a message and communicate to the population. Maybe you are happy because instantly today, my brother, you are making impact in life by making somebody's life better by that instant communication. If a man MD like you as now, he has to set 10-year plan, and maybe later it may come or not, but he has to wait for a year to do annual reports. So what is the mission, the vision? Why is the mission? How is the strategy?
Why is it important? Why is it important to have your ducks in a row per se.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about going into something and saying, is it absolutely important for us to have these things in place? I may know the answer, but I think it's important for us to hear, why is it important to have all of these things strategically thought out, strategically planned out, and then strategically implemented? Why is that important to have that?
Because this is what is important about alignment. If you use the word alignment, you may find that your vision, where you want to be, is not aligned to why you want to do it. I want to go to New York because that is a vision. But will you be happy in New York? So the why is not aligned to the what. And how will you get there? If you go by sea, okay, most likely it will take too long, and it can contribute to your unhappiness. So the alignment between vision, mission, and objective, which is now a measurable milestone. How will you know you are happy? Or how do you know you are getting there? That's now objective. It must be a measurable milestone. And if it's not measurable, how will we know? For example, you are talking about how the president has performed. There's Vision 2030. Why do we want Vision 2030? We want Vision 2030 in Kenya so that people can live a decent life of dignity. That's the why. But now, how will we know we are there? That's now the objective. So they are measurable. For example, how much water do we need? Doctor to patient ratio, hospital beds to patient ratio. We talk about education being important, transition from primary to secondary school. So this becomes now objectives to measure. And thus we talk about now the Vision 2030 having pillars now to help us measure how Vision 20 will actually come to pass. I don't know if I answer your question.
Yeah, more or less.
No, you need to be a bit more positive. More or less is
Yes
vague.
or no?
Well, I think
Yes.
we're going to get into it a little
You
bit
at the
deeper.
back, can you ask a question?
I think we're going to get into it a little bit deeper because, I mean, if we're talking about, strategies for success, it can be applied across board, whether you're talking about education, whether we're talking about what now we're in the throes of in terms of election season and then picking a leader.
Yeah.
When you say, does this individual have strategy? And that's why I was going with that
Oh, yes.
why is it important to have a strategy that is implementable? And that why is it important for you who is voting, for example, who is electing this person, to also think in that manner? That if this person is not thinking along the lines of what you've just intimated, then perhaps is not the right choice.
In fact, what you say is quite interesting because every time I go somewhere, I actually spend time talking to the security guard because let me tell you, my brother or sister, these people have a lot of information.
That's interesting.
Or if you like data. Yes, we were talking to him.
Here. Yeah.
And he was asking me, Professor, where do you think this election is going? And I told him my concern is this. If you look at the election going on, we are discussing about the personalities of these people rather than their policies. So-and-so can't do this. So-and-so can do that. And I told him, me and you, the most we know about Raila is what we hear in the media. I don't know him personally. Ruto, neither do we know about them personally. Why should the whole nation spend time analyzing their personalities? Why don't the whole nation go to what you have said? What's their strategy? What's their vision for the country? How will they execute it? For example, bottoms up. How will we get that money to move bottoms up? When you talk about, someone says, I put 50 billion in bottoms up. The question is, what's the outcome? Because see, we are talking about in strategy what's called lagging variables and leading variables. If you say bottoms up, what will bottom up lead to things like access to education? I want to know how many people access to education, how many people have quality of life in terms of affordability of food, how many people afford healthcare. Don't tell me about I'll put 50 billion. Like, for example, if, your wife you tell your wife that I'll be working 30 days a month, isn't it? Do you think that interests her? But if you tell her, if I go to work 30 days a month, you are going to live in Karen. I think that's more interesting than telling me simply, I'll be working 30 days a month.
I mean, she can see the results.
And I agree with you. Let us remove the noise. There's what you call noise and signal in strategy. Noise is so-and-so is a thief. So-and-so stole. So-and-so has suffered. That is noise
Yes.
at the moment. Now, after that, you have gone to prison and suffered like Raila has suffered. What do we expect in terms of economic policies, in terms of economic transformation that you're going to bring to the country after you have been able to bring bottoms up? How will we see people's quality of life in terms of goods of life, like talk about education, health, food, name it? That's for me is now
So the
KPI,
questions.
key performance indicators to the strategy, which is set using the objectives.
Dr. You've authored a book,
Yes,
10 Lessons from 1,000 Strategic Plans.
yes.
Tell us about this book.
First of all, this book has something to be very happy about. First of all, before you understand this book, you have to understand a little bit of my background.
Aha.
I'm a son of a catechist. We were born 11 people, 11 children in the family. My mother was a nursery school teacher. My father earned 1,500 shillings a month. We live in Kibera, in Olympic, in Katwekera. Now, the first strategy here is, how did this young man, this boy here, so any ordinary Kenyan young man listening to me, that you can be what I am today? Because
Be a professor
how did you
at
move
the leading
from
business school in
there
Kenya.
to be here within less than 45 years with that kind of poor social network, economic disadvantage, and get here? To get there, we go to the question you ask me, how? Strategy. It is strategy, and of course, strategy also has to have some good luck and bad luck. That's why even when you criticize the president, he had an objective. He had got a strategy. But there also element of good and bad luck. Did he anticipate the COVID-19 situation? That's bad luck. Ukraine issues, bad luck. But we don't want to develop in excuses. I came from that very poor background and made it as the sixth born of the family. And that needed what? Strategy. So the first strategy in this book is personal strategy. So this book guides you on personal strategy. My first success was...
Are you telling us that you had a strategy from a very early age? Or were you just living? I mean, you're a young
Yes,
boy
there
in
was.
Katwekera. You want to tell me there was like a strategy?
No, but think of this for a moment.
Eh,
He broke it down nicely.
eh,
The good professor, this man is an educator.
eh.
Most people who actually teach in universities are actually untrained teachers. This one clearly is trained.
This one is a trained
Yes,
teacher.
because when you break it down to how, it's a question you ask from a very early age. You may not know it is called a strategy.
Yeah.
But there's something that you answer.
Yes,
There's question.
yes, yes.
And let me tell you
Yes.
something about myself.
Eh.
When we used to live in Olympic with my dad, all my siblings were sent home in rural because my father could not afford to keep them. So there's a day, whenever my father could take me to go and watch a match between Gor Mahia and the AFC Leopard, I was still very young, like 6, 7, thereabout. So there's a time we went and then a football match, war broke up. It was common, AFC Leopard and Gor Mahia. So when my father could come home to report what happened, I used to go to my room and cry how he did not do justice to the report, because he says Gor Mahia scored, then AFC Leopard equalized, then war broke up, because that didn't explain how. How did the war broke up? And you can say I'm faking it, but from childhood, I had what is called passion for clarity. What exactly happened? It is not that Gor Mahia scored, then AFC Leopard equalized, then they won.
there's a war.
How was that? Gor Mahia scored, AFC Leopard was awarded a penalty that was perceived to be incorrect. Then
unfair.
so that is the how.
Then the war broke out.
Yes. So this is something I saw from childhood. Let me tell you another aspect of mine that is good to know. Because my father was a catechist, when I finished high school, it was important to be a priest because that's the only profession we knew.
Yes.
So I went to the seminary. I finished 8.5 years. I was 3 months away from being a deacon, meaning finishing priesthood.
Yes.
Then I was kicked out from the seminary in 2006 on 5th of May.
What did you do?
Many things can be said, but story for another day.
The how?
No. We're interested in clarity of purpose.
Professor, we are not
Passion for
continuing
clarity.
until we know
Passion for
why.
clarity. 3 months to deaconhood.
Okay.
You were thrown out
I
of
will
the
say-
seminary.
I'll say it.
Why?
First of all, I
How?
was with a congregation called Mill Hill Missionaries. Mill Hill Missionaries are found in North London, they are mostly British-founded organization.
Yeah.
Then we had Africans who joined. There were Asians, there were Philippines, and the rest. And sibling rivalry, whereby if you are a class, people compete. So sorry that I was among the best students. If I say, let's say the best students when I was doing theology. So people normally come with those things of weevil, you see them, jealousy. So someone told my superior that I hate white people with a passion. And that's how I left. So I was not given a chance to explain myself.
Racist.
Yes, I was not given a chance to explain myself, but that's how I left. So when I was kicked out, that was 5th of May 2006.
After 8 years.
Yes, around 5:15 p.m. I went to my room. I cried. My brother, I cried until around 4:35 in the morning. My pillow was wet. So I said, this is not a good thing. So I sat down and said, let's accept the fact. Because I begin by accepting that my market is not doing very well. My customers are not happy. Revenues are not coming. So I said, I can't cry until morning because I'm going to have a wet pillow, nothing else. So I went to my sitting room and picked 10 nation newspapers. I'm sorry to say, not standard, but I have to be honest
It's
again.
okay.
So I picked 10 nation newspapers and I went to the vacancy column and I asked myself, what are people looking for? And I saw a degree in social sciences with an MBA will have added advantage. So I sat down and wrote a strategy and said, in 10 years, what do I want to be? And I said, either a C-suite executive or a top professor in Africa. And you know what's happening? I went to work in the bank as I was doing my MBA in Queer. Then I discovered I'm not the kind of guy who works in the office, sit up 8 to 5. So I quit job at the bank and volunteered in a faculty of commerce in Catholic University, just arranging books in shelves, just to be in academics.
Without an income.
Not an income. I can tell you, the professor who was there was called Okumundiao. May God rest his soul in peace. I was arranging his books, and he was not even giving me fare. But I knew that my destination, which means strategic direction now, is not corporate C-suite, is top professor in Africa. And that's when I did a 10-year plan that by 2016, in 10 years, I should actually be a faculty with a PhD close to being a professor at a renowned business school. And that is what has come to pass. Now, look, let me give you numbers. I have 5 undergraduate degrees. I have 2 master degrees. I have a PhD from an Ivy League business school, which is now currently the 4th best business school in the world. And I have 16 international certification by World Bank. And that's how I've done 1,036 strategic plans as we speak now. If you tell me any professor in the world who has 5 undergraduate degrees, 2 master degrees from Ivy League business schools, a PhD from Ivy League business school, has written 1,036 strategic plans, has written 418 curriculums, and has written more than 3,000 articles in business in local newspapers like Nation, Standard, that professor will be on top of me. But for now, it is Fred.
You're the
Ogola.
one. Right now, it's
yes. So if someone comes tomorrow, I'll be winning this award today. Then tomorrow they can take over.
They'll take over.
So did you see now? It was strategic to know
How
that.
many years are we talking about? From the moment, let's say, from the moment you left high school
Yeah.
to the moment you acquired the latest certification. How many years are we talking
I left high school in 1999 in St. Mary's, Yala, and I began that journey of academia, and I finished my PhD in 2012, May. But the advantage of going to the seminar, that's why I don't regret, even if I was dismissed. When I left with 3 degrees, which I didn't pay for.
Yeah.
So I just needed to do 2. So I thank God apart from there. But apart from the degree, let me tell you what, I believe everybody should go through such a formation, discipline, whereby when they say evening prayers, after evening prayers at 10 p.m., no talking, try to put that rule in your house, even you will break it. We used to keep it for 8 years. Can you imagine keeping such a rule
10
for 8
p.m. silence.
After evening prayers, you just walked and slept because you have to sleep in the grace of God. So nothing like someone talking to somebody who can bring
Mushene.
Yes, mushene. No, you just go to bed. If you talk, you are dismissed. Then you have to be for morning prayers at 6:30 a.m. And at 6:30 a.m., they start in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Every-
Lunch was at 1, and there was no excuse why you should come later. Can you imagine to live such like things for 8.5 years? So the discipline I have, I wake up every day at 4:30, and whether I slept at what time, like yesterday I was at KBC.
Whether you slept at
and-
4:15.
Yes. Yesterday I was at KBC until 1. I reached home, I slept. And today I woke up at 4:30. I went for my morning exercises, my morning prayers and readings. So discipline, hard work, focus are the virtues the seminary gave me. So in spite of 8 years seminary, I don't regret even for one day I was there.
We are going to talk about the other lessons. 10 lessons from over 1,000 strategic plans. This is a book that's been authored by Dr. Fred Ogola, Director of Institute of Strategy and Competitiveness at the Strathmore University Business School. We are discussing that. We are getting... The first one was personal experience.
Yes.
And it's a personal story. Good one. Where I can't wait to hear the others. Let's take a quick break, 27 minutes to 10. This is The Situation Room on Spice FM, online on YouTube and on Facebook.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The conversation continues. Today we are talking strategy, strategic thinking, 10 lessons from 1,000 strategic plans. Dr. Fred Ogola from the Strathmore University Business School is here with us. He's authored this book. You've given us one of those lessons. What is the other big lesson that we can pick from here?
Yeah, so the first of all, strategic thinking introduces strategy as a science, not as an art. So a science means that you know what you want to achieve, which is the leading variable. You know what you need to do to achieve it is called lagging variable. And as you said, how becomes important. So those are very important in strategic thinking as a whole. Now, if you ask, the most problematic lesson in this book is called mismanagement of mismanagement. And in all companies I've done strategy for, it is there. And I'm sorry, you might find it somewhere in the corridors of Standard Media Group. Why? Have you ever launched a newspaper? Have you ever launched a product and it is clear it's a wrong product?
It's clear to who?
To the management, probably, or the guy who launches. But now, instead of accepting it, you ask for more resources to blow into trying to make it succeed. So you have mismanaged entering a new business, which is wrong. Secondly, you mismanage money by throwing good money after bad money. So fight against corruption is the same thing. All commissions we are forming to try to treat a problem we know very well is the same thing. But even to put it simple, for example, Eric, you reach home. All men know this question your wife will ask. When you reach home late, they'll ask you, where are you coming from? Why don't we prepare this answer? We never prepare. And you can be in a marriage for over 10 years, and the same question you still get wrong. Now, let's look here. The first mismanagement is you mismanage your time to arrive late. The second mismanagement is you didn't let her know before, so mismanaging communication. The third mismanagement is arrogance, banging tables. So what I'm trying to say, yes. So when you reach home, you know I've mismanaged my time and arrived late. When you reach home, what you need to do is to forget that you are the head of the family, because the head cannot reach late. Have you ever seen when the head of the train reaches later than the train? So when you come out of that is the issue. So mismanagement is an issue. I can give an example. In this book, there's a case of an insurance company named Kept. They had a CEO. It was a wrong decision to hire that CEO. The CEO was being paid $5 million per month. Now, in a 5-year contract. So now they discovered that the CEO was addicted to strip pubs. This is a company in this country. He was addicted to going to watch
strip clubs.
Now, if you are the chairman or the board sat down and say, what do we do? So the board discovered that 5 million times 12 times 5 is a lot of money.
300 million.
300 million. So would you fire him? No. So they did what's called training. They took him to Harvard for training. Now, you are paying this guy's ticket to Harvard. You're paying accommodation to Harvard. You're paying him allowances to be in Harvard, and you're paying him salary to be in Harvard.
And you're paying Harvard.
And you're paying Harvard. And salaries, your revenue is going down because you have no CEO because the CEO is studying. So now what happens is that you are afraid of losing 300 million instantly, but you are losing more money in terms of dwindling revenue every now and then. First of all, from Harvard, they took him to HSC in France. Then thirdly, the worst decision they ever made, they took this man to Budapest. Now, Eric, I don't know that you've been to Budapest, but I've been to Budapest. When you go to Moi Avenue in Nairobi, when you look front, left, you look right, back, you see M-Pesa. Is it not true?
Yes.
When in Barcelona, when you look left, right, back, and right, you see Football Club Barcelona something. When in Budapest, do you know what you see? You see advertisement about street clubs and red line district shop and name it. So how does a board take a CEO to recover in Budapest? So that is mismanagement or mismanaged. Then eventually they fire the guy after spending more than 300 million trying to cure the issue, then again pay him for wrongful dismissal. So that's what I call mismanagement. Now, what is the solution in this book? It's called active knowledge forgetting. Why do people enter here? There's what they call escalated commitment. For example, let's say, I'm sure you guys are all married, but for those who are not, if you start dating a girl, you spend money out with her, you do trips with her, you fall in love with her, you buy her a car. You have escalated your commitment, right? You took her to your parents.
Yes.
So you discover she's the wrong chick at the end. Will you quit that relationship? No. You have bought a car. So you pray she will change. Then you marry her and you become unhappy for the rest of your life just because you're fearing to make a decision because you have escalated commitment. I call them mismanagement. For me, the best advice, forget about the car you bought. Forget the trips.
Cut your losses.
Cut your losses, move on.
Professor, I love your examples, but I have to ask this. I have two questions.
Yes.
Okay. How was this man's addiction to strip clubs affecting his performance?
Yes,
at
because
work?
when you're in the strip club, MD normally have an office of how many square feet. You can tell, isn't it? Like if you go to National Bank, the MD can see you almost 400 meters as you walk in. That is the kind of space you can see, right?
So
Now, if that office is yours, how small is a street club? Very small. So you are in a street club where lighting is not very good. I'm sure maybe.
It's deliberately not good.
Yes.
Yes.
So where are you signing checks? A client needs to meet you. A supplier needs to meet you. Approval is needed. Committees need to sit, you need to chair. Where are you? You are in a street club. Are you doing anything? So because of those things, processes don't help company to make money. You need to go meet an important client who actually holds 20% of your portfolio. You are not available.
Your hands
And
are
no
busy.
one can explain where you are.
You see, where I'm going with
your
this.
hands are tied up.
No, this. Yes, your hands are tied up. The problem wasn't the CEO; it was the board.
I guess so.
But that's
And-
why
and-
we
and
talk about mismanagement.
Those are the ones who are
Why do you
mismanaging
hire-
mismanagement.
Yes. They were the problem. And then on to the second matter. You took the presumptive view that what you gave as a second example can only happen if somebody is married or is not married. I am saying they're buying the car. Huh?
Yes.
Everything you mentioned,
Yes.
that's a strategy for acquiring a second wife.
The commitment.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, the problems which will come later, I have no quarrel with.
It's the pursuit
Yes.
of happiness.
It is the pursuit of happiness which ends up in great unhappiness.
Yes.
So this one is a good example of a mismanagement
Of
of a
mismanagement.
mismanagement.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm happy you agree. And this book is written in a simple language, like someone talking to you, like having a chat in a club. You know, there are some books are written that you need to sit in a library with all noise and soundproofs out and read. This one you can read in a club and still understand what it is saying because the story is just like I'm talking to you.
So the lesson here: cut your losses.
Yes.
And move.
Yes.
Other-
Because that's a cognitive bias of escalated commitment. Look at how many people are living where they live because of escalated commitment. You went to an estate which is not good for you, but you can't move. You in a relationship, you are in a career where you are stuck because you have already paid school fees.
Yeah.
You're in a school where you're being mistreated. You go to university where even lecturers don't come to class, but you are paid school fees. And you'll be here for 10 years. And your career will stagnate for 10 years. Escalated commitment leading to mismanagement of your career.
Can this be applicable in any situation?
Yes.
What are we talking about here? Education, whether you're talking about career, whether you're talking about politics, governance, leadership.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you can apply this at any one point when you find that all the variables are not working together for you? You can actually say, you know what, guys? Have a conversation with yourself. Stop.
Yeah.
Drop it and run.
Yes. I have done this myself.
Would you not then bear the label of somebody who starts and stops?
No, but of course, see, you learn lessons. For example, let's look at the political situation. Kalonzo Musyoka says that he is in Wiper, he is in Azimio, and is running.
And is in one
All
Kenya.
his candidates in Ukambani have branded materials with Raila. Now, escalate commitment is that you have materials worth 20 million in Raila's name.
And you are supporting Kalonzo.
And you are supporting Kalonzo. So now, what do you do if you are the MCA? What do you do if you are a governor? And you'll make the decision to support Raila based on the campaign materials, not because of his policy.
Wahala.
So this is a challenge. You can see it in everywhere. But if you say, I want to serve the people of Ukambani, what it matters is you. And if you have money, I'm sorry, elections are expensive. If you can have someone to find you 10 million again, redo the campaign materials, go independent, probably. So I'm saying you can actually make this decision. I'm saying I'm a real example. In seminary, you have invested 8 years. Do you know what 8 years looks like? And you say priesthood is gone. Let me focus. And I can tell you, my brother, I have guys went with the seminary. We were in the seminary for 8 years. When they were dismissed, some of them committed suicide. And some of them are still trying to get admitted in some other places to become priests, and they are still waiting to become priests. And for me, I've made a career.
You
So
moved out
I'm
and
saying
moved
moving on is a very important thing to know. Even their song says, I moved on, but I can't walk away. Those are all dilemmas people have.
on. Another one?
The other one, which for me is also very, very important in this thing, is that leadership is romanticized.
Uh-huh.
What is romanticized? Romanticizing something means it's not real. Like now, you are blaming Uhuru Kenyatta for the performance of economy. How much does his presidency explains the badness of the economy? Now, that's another story. But also, let's go here. I'm sure that is too hot for me to handle. Let me go where I'm good at. Kipngetich was the CEO of KWS. He performed fantastic. Michael Joseph was the CEO of Safaricom. Fantastic performance. When these guys moved to other places, they have not performed the same way. So Kipngetich moves to Uchumi, and in his hands, Uchumi died. Michael Joseph was sent to Romania to head Mobile Money Romania, and he was fired by World Bank because it failed. He was appointed chairman of Kenya Airways, and you know what's happening there.
Executive chairman.
So now the issue is the success of a corporation explained 100% like we say it by the CEO? Like now I saw yesterday, East African newspaper, the East African stated about Joshua Igara, that the man, East African Bankton, that was the title. Now, is it true that all the performance of Standard here can be explained by the CEO? I can tell you no. So I'm telling you that the success of Standard depends on that watchman who escorted me here in time, that person at the desk who gave me access here quickly, who knew I was going. It depends on you who is speaking to the customer, and your cooperation or lack of it can actually bring down Standard or not. You go to football matches, you can find sometimes players are not playing well, and then we sack the coach. Now, how much does the coach of Real Madrid explain the winning of Champions League? Is it not even the guy who cuts the grass in the training ground that explains this more? So I'm saying leadership is romanticized, and we are forgetting the importance of here. Like, for example, all Kenyans are focusing on who will be the next president. But if you have a bad governor, the president will assign money to go to your county. Now, you don't want to focus on the governor, MCA, it's like someone who thinks that if you want to go to the gym and build muscle, you can only build your chest, but not your legs. But I've gone to the gym. With weak legs and weak back, you can't carry weight to build your chest. So, as you look at organizations romanticizing the head at the expense of the leg.
But Prof, leadership is also important. Like in all those examples you've given. So
Yes.
you enter the standard group and everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. Everybody is motivated to do it. Everybody understands the importance of what they're doing.
Yes.
That would stem from leadership.
Yes.
If you have a good leader who's a team leader, then the team works well. We have seen the example you've given of football clubs. Football club is performing poorly. A new manager comes in and turns the table with the same player.
Yes.
So leadership is also important.
It is important by saying it's romanticized to the extent that if we ask, what explanatory power does the CEO relate to the performance? You may discover maybe 10% performance explanatory power, but not 100%. But here, if you hear headline saying, the man East African Bankton, you know how big East Africa is? And that one is an assumption. It's called perfect personality assumption. For example, as a man at home with children and wife, you are the head of the family. If your family is successful, is it you? Maybe you are busy in the studio, but somebody like your house help has a lot to explain the success of the family. Because you get your food on time, your clothes are on time, everything is on time, and we ignore thinking that the success of the home is you. Maybe it could be your wife who even knows how you dress. If you see me smart now, do I even know how this tie was selected? But you tell me Fred is smart. My performance looks like mine. But my wife is behind all these things. She changed the wardrobe. So if I look smart, you say I'm smart. I used to put on a suit with a Maasai belt. My wife came immediately and threw it away. So if I'm smart, is it about me? So I'm saying we are over-romanticizing leadership, and we need to understand that leadership can be defined, again, another definition. Leadership can be defined with one word called followership. If no one is following you, you are just taking a walk. So if you're a leader and no one is following you, you are taking a walk. So you must convert people to follow you, or sometimes they choose to follow you. And sometimes if you look, for example, let's talk about Joshua Igara. When Martin Oduro left KCB, there were 2 million customers. Now Joshua leaves it at 17.3 million customers. Now, do you want to tell me this is all attributed to Joshua? Martin had put a strategy on digital transformation. He found the strategy. In fact, I interviewed Joshua in Strathmore Business School with MBA student asking, when you are appointed, what's the first thing the board asked you? The board asked him, do you think we have the right strategy? And he said, yes. So no need to change. He said, no. We need to escalate it by appointing for me some directors and kicking out 3 of them. That's what he said only. Now, do you want to tell me that growth is only attributed to Joshua? Not really. Nope. So you can tell that we are over-romanticizing this thing rather than just looking and saying, well done. Titus Nakuni is another example. Tata Chemical successful. Then he became the CEO of KQ, came Project Mawingu. It is the death that brought KQ. But now he chairs the board of Airtel and he chairs Prudential Insurance. How are those people performing? So I'm just trying to tell you, you can go on and on. The examples are so many. The cooperation of middle-level management and the foot soldiers on the ground has a lot to explain about performance more than the leader.
Daktari, we need to read this book. Tell us how we can get the book as we conclude the conversation today.
First of all, I'll sign for you a copy today and leave, and leave you the book today. But the book is being launched tomorrow in Strathmore Business School, 7:30 to 10 is being launched by Mr. Mugo Kibati, who is the CEO of Telcom. We did work with him some projects on Vision 2030, and this book also explains how Vision 2030 can be cascaded to make sense in real life. So anybody who wants to access this book, you can come to Strathmore Business School during the launch, 7 to 8 tomorrow in the Business School Auditorium. Secondly, if you go to my website... AM.
Okay.
If you go to my website, fredogola.co.ke, you can find all the information how you can buy it.
Ogola with a single L.
Single alias.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
fredogola.co.ke. Here are the
Yes.
details of how you can access this book.
Yes.
It's called 10 Lessons from 1,000 Strategic Plans.
Yes.
Asante sana. I think this is an interesting one. We can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
Come again soon. We'll invite you
Yes.
so we can keep talking about this, about strategy and how to think strategically, especially.
Yes. Yes.